Good afternoon. The Secretary General and the Prime Minister will have short introductory remarks, and then we'll have time for 2 questions. Secretary General.
So, Prime Minister Janez, it's great to see you here at the NATO headquarters. Welcome. We just had a very extensive meeting discussing different issues of importance for Slovenia and NATO. And we also discussed NATO's response to COVID-19. And let me start by offering my deepest condolences for all those who died from the virus in Slovenia. And I thank all those medical staff who have been on the front line. NATO's preparations for a possible second wave of COVID-19 are on track with an operation plan, a stockpile of medical equipment and more funding. During the crisis, allies supported Slovenia by providing medical equipment and staff. And I want to thank Slovenia for showing solidarity with NATO allies and partners. This includes sending medical supplies to North Macedonia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. Across NATO, our armed forces have supported the civilian response to the virus, and we must continue to ensure this health crisis does not become a security crisis. The security challenges we faced before the pandemic have not gone away. So our countries must continue to invest in their militaries to keep them strong. And I count on Slovenia to continue increasing defense spending and implement its plans. We all agree that this will help keep our alliance strong. I want to thank Slovenia for its continued contributions to NATO missions and operations. Slovenian troops serve in our multilateral battle group in Latvia, and you are one of the top contributors to our KFOR peacekeeping mission in Kosovo. You are helping to promote peace and stability across the Western Balkans. This is good for the region and for Euro-Atlantic security. So, Prime Minister Janez, we must continue to adapt our alliance to the changing security environment. To meet new challenges, NATO must remain strong militarily, become stronger politically, and more global. That is my vision for NATO 2030. I know I can count on your support. Thank you once again for being here today and for Slovenia's contributions to our alliance. So it's great to see you, and please you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad that we were able today to continue our discussion. We started by phone in the middle of May. I'm also glad that I was able to inform you about some steps forwards we did in Slovenia during this time to increase our presence in NATO and to fulfill our obligations. But obviously, one of the more pressing issues we addressed, as you said, is the situation evolving around COVID-19. As it stands, we might be at least at the part of our continent heading towards the second wave. Therefore, additional safety and systemic measures will have to be taken in order to try to avoid another lockdowns. This is very important in light of stability and economic recovery of our countries. And although NATO is not the first responder, it has a very important role to play in joint international response to COVID-19. And so far, the reactions of NATO was very on time and very well coordinated. So I thank you to Secretary General Mr. Stoltenberg for this cooperation in not very easy time. NATO and allies have demonstrated the ability to continue operational activities despite these demanding circumstances of epidemic or of the threat of COVID-19. The alliance has been proactive and prepared an operational plan for a potential second wave, which, as you said, might follow in upcoming weeks. It is vital we learn and act in accordance with the lessons learned during the first wave, and I'm glad that We have developed a good plan for the future. And as COVID-19 pandemic has clearly demonstrated, it is also very important to further strengthen the strategic partnership between NATO and European Union. As organizations that share Euro-Atlantic values, deepening the cooperation is beneficial for all of the stakeholders. Being a member of next EU Council Presidency trio, supporting this will be our of Slovenian priorities. We also discussed our participation in operations and missions. Slovenia is committed to maintain our active participation, despite the challenges we are facing due to COVID-19 and its economic consequences. I am very happy to see the Alliance has once again proved its coherence and managed to prevent the possibility of a health crisis, spillover and becoming a broader security issue regarding our missions abroad. It was a huge challenge, and I'm glad that we were able to manage it. Lastly, we also addressed the modernization of the Slovenian armed forces together with the planned structural reforms. Our government confirmed and sent to the Parliament for adoption a bill that will secure 780 million euros for investment in capabilities of the Slovenian armed forces over the next 6 years. This will enable the much-needed predictability and sustainability of our defense procurement process in the upcoming years. This will make our national defense stronger, and this will make our commitment to NATO missions and to our obligations much more real or realistic than during last years. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have time for 2 questions. We'll start with Slovenia National TV, gentleman over there.
Yeah, hi, Secretary General Igor Juric, Slovenia National Television. First question goes to you. The Prime Minister just mentioned that Slovenia will invest in the next years, 6 years, around 780 millions. My question is, you heard in the last years many promises from the Slovenian side already, how much investment will be done. Do you think that this time Slovenia will be a credible partner which will fulfill its promises? That's the question for you. And for the Prime Minister, will this money goes primarily in the investment in, let's say, equipment for the army, or money also for the salaries, which we know all that now this proportion in money, in expenses for defense, it's not so good for Slovenia as a member of NATO? Thank you.
Prime Minister Janša briefed me on the plans of the government and also the process in the Parliament when it comes to increased defense spending. And I am confident that these plans will be implemented, that we will see an increase in defense spending in Slovenia. This is, of course, something we welcome, partly because we welcome more Slovenian defense capabilities, but also we know that by increasing defense spending in Slovenia, Slovenia is also investing in the transatlantic bond, in the transatlantic unity of our alliance, because this is also about burden sharing. So when allies ask Slovenia increase defense spending, it provides money for capabilities we need, but also strengthen the political unity of the alliance, because it shows that we are actually taking the message of fair burden sharing seriously. I know that Slovenia has capabilities which have proven very capable. Last time I visited Slovenia, I saw your special operation forces operating. I've been visiting one of the centers you have on mountainous warfare. And of course, we welcome more investments of Slovenia. Let me also add one more thing, and that is that we all realize that COVID-19 has created severe economic challenges for all allies. At the same time, the threats we had before the pandemic, they have not gone away. They are still there. So we need to continue to invest in our security. And I think also that the pandemic has demonstrated that the military, NATO and our military forces across the lines, they actually have been able to provide a lot of support and help to the civilian efforts dealing with the pandemic. The military has provided transportation of equipment, of patients, setting up field hospitals, helping to disinfect public spaces and so on. So investing in military means also investing in surge capacity that can be mobilized in times of a health crisis like we are seeing now.
Well, the main difference between promises which have been made during last decade and the information I gave to the Secretary General is that those promises were mostly based on every year's political debate about the budget. And we all know how the political environment in Slovenia has been changing during this time. Well, in those promises there was no stability. So this is why we are proposing now a law which will make possible to plan a stable investment during next 6 years, which will be safe of these political debates regarding every year's budget passing. As Secretary General just said, we also during this epidemic crisis how transport capabilities were important for bringing personal protective equipment or medical equipment on real time in separate countries because the normal logistic chains were interrupted. We missed such plane we plan to buy from this investment heavily. So the largest part of this money coming from this law for the investment into defense and military during next 6 years will go for such equipment. But we are also committed to improve the standards of working for Slovenian military. And because the investment will come from this source, another maneuvering space will be created from every year's budget money which we are spending for the defense. And as you know that we have already taken some steps toward the improvement of the salaries of the military in Slovenia or during some small investment to improve the working conditions for Slovenian soldiers.
Second question, Slovenia News Agency.
Yes, hello, Petra from Willersdorf, Slovenia News Agency. First, the first short follow-up to what you said about COVID and defense spending, Secretary General. According to the recent economic forecast, recession in Europe will be even deeper than previously foreseen. How concerned are you that this will have a severe impact on the efforts of the Allies to reach the 2% target? And for Prime Minister, 2 points, if I may. To continue with recovery, you met President Michel this morning. What was your main message to him? I mean, what will be the main objective of Slovenia in the MFF and Recovery Fund negotiations? And do you expect the agreement next week? And second point, ECB archives issue. You got the letter from the President of the Commission. Are you satisfied with it? Will the Commission withdraw the legal action as you wanted to do? And if so, under what conditions? Thank you very much.
COVID-19 has created serious economic problems and it will impact the budget situation for all allies. And I understand that allies will be faced with some very difficult and demanding decisions. At the same time, the reason why we decided to invest more in defense that reason is still there. It's a more challenging, more unpredictable security environment. The security threats that made us decide to increase defense spending have not gone away, so they are still there. Second, the pandemic and our response to the pandemic has proven the value of military capabilities. Across the whole alliance, you have seen thousands of military personnel really being on the front line together with medical personnel in coping with the pandemic. Hundreds of field hospitals, a lot of airlift capabilities have been essential to move equipment of long distances, but also to transport patients, and that's something that actually the military know how to do, medical evacuation. You need modern equipment, you need modern airlift capabilities, and not least you need the personnel to be able to cope with these kind of crises. So by investing in the military, you have a reserve capacity that you can mobilize when you're faced with civilian crisis, health crisis, and as the pandemic. And thirdly, I think that investing in the military could also be part of the solution, because investing in military is a way to stimulate the economy, is a way to strengthen your defense industry, and therefore I'm confident that Slovenia and all the NATO allies will continue to invest in our security.
So regarding the MFF and recovery fund, Slovenia has two main objectives. One is the final decision to be as close as possible to the proposals. We all know that some compromises will be needed, but as I said, as close as possible we come during the final agreement, better not only for Slovenia, but I think for vast majority of the EU member states. And of course, second most important objective is to reach agreement as soon as possible, because time is money, and because we all know that we are not over with the threat of coronavirus epidemic. The steps we are taking on time, are very important also to show that we are able to react and to find solutions. Regarding the ECB archives, I'm satisfied that the European Commission is prepared to discuss this issue. What is the outcome, I cannot say before the meeting I have this afternoon, so we will see tomorrow.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press point. Thank you.
Thank you.